Getting back to being serious, I'm Mr. Positive, but I did want to start off with maybe what I thought was the biggest question mark and something that I didn't expect to go the way that it did. I know you mentioned a little bit about some bright spots that you saw on the offensive line, but overall for me, I saw a very porous offensive line, one that was people that we expected to play well didn't really play well and seemed like they were just outgunned and outmanned and discombobulated overall. So I think you may have a very different viewpoint on that, but tell us overall what you see in this offensive line and what's going on with them.
Well, I think the thing here is that the offensive line is going to be fine. It's going to be okay across the starting group of that starting five. Daniel Brunskill's the weak link. The backups are struggling. Jalen Moore played pretty decent at left tackle. When he was in there early on, he struggled in the second quarter. He got beat for the one sack. But other than the sack, he played okay. Even go back to the first quarter, though, and there was the fly sweep, jet sweep, whatever you want to call it, that they ran with Brandon Aiyuk. That's a big play waiting to happen, but he trips coming off the line, and he misses the linebacker, and then that linebacker is the guy that makes the tackle because Aiyuk's not able to cut it back inside because he's sitting right there because he doesn't get cut off. Just overall, this group didn't get in. And I went back and watched the game. It's hard when you're there. You're focused on the game, and just especially with the first time that I was in the press box, it was a different thing trying to get my bearings. I think I got it handled for 2 weeks from they play the Raiders, but going back and watching it again, the offensive line just got no push in the run game. They weren't pushing anybody off the line. Some of that probably has to do with Mack not being there and Williams not being there. But that's part of the reason why Sermon really didn't get going was there was no movement from the offensive side. And in the passing game, Daniel Brunskill just got stood up and by Chris Jones and knocked over. He trips over Sermon's foot, but that was after he was already stood up and was pretty much beat. I have faith in the starting offensive line, though. When Alex Mack is there and when Trent Williams is there, I think they're going to be okay. I think they're going to be a better unit than they were last year. We know what Brunskill is. He's a journeyman guy that's going to start because Aaron Banks is not good right now. And that showed up really when I was watching the game at first, it looked like he was doing okay because they ran right over his side a couple of times. It was right after the interception by Lenore. They came out, and I think they ran 3 straight times to the right side. Got a first down. He had some nice blocks there, but then just the wheels just came off it for him. And you see him start missing blocks in the run game. You see him, just whiff on pass protection. So it's rough when the guys that miss their blocks are the same guys that have struggled during one-on-one drills during training camp. Daniel Brunskill, Aaron Banks, he's been okay, but he's struggled at times too. He hasn't been, rock solid. Colton McKivitz has been iffy, and he got beat for one, and then you had more for the other one. So there's some things to definitely work on there, and I think some of that goes to Trey Lance too. There was one for sure sack that was on him. I think there was really 2 after I saw some all-22 footage today.
Now, Greg is bringing up a good point. We obviously got breaking news that Trent Williams is going down for, I think, 2 weeks with an injury. So Greg asks, what's the backup plan if Trent Williams' injury is serious? The offensive line would completely fall apart without him. And before you answer, Jack, one thing that we were talking about before this preseason game is how much we feel like this offensive line is going to actually enhance the 49ers because of guys like Alex Mack and Trent Williams. And we thought that the depth with the guys they picked up through the draft and, some of the guys that have been on the team for a while that could kind of come in with spot duty, this is going to be a very solid offensive line overall. Now we're talking about they'll be okay. I'm fearful that these backups don't seem like they are going to be ready to play, full-fledged starters and game time speed. What is the backup plan if Trent Williams isn't able to play or goes down with the injury somehow through the season?
Well, we saw it on Saturday night. If Trent Williams is down, it's going to be Jalen Moore. He's the backup at left tackle. It doesn't sound like this injury is serious, though. They felt like it. At least that's what they said after practice today. We'll see what happens tomorrow. But if Williams is down, it's going to be Jalen Moore. That's the guy they drafted. I don't think they were really drafted to have him play left tackle. They weren't expecting that when they took him. They were expecting him to compete with Justin School for that swing tackle role, and same with Sean Coleman. So that's the plan. They're definitely they definitely have some thin. They're definitely thin. I think the entire NFL, when you really get into it, is pretty thin once you get past the starters, right? Look what happened in the Super Bowl last year when you had backup offensive linemen in the game for Kansas City. Right. So it's not like that's limited to the 49ers. I think they're going to be in an okay situation. Keep getting more reps. Keep getting McKivitz reps, and that I think the guy that you got to be more worried about is the fact that Banks went down. Banks isn't going to be practicing for 2 to 3 weeks. He's the one that's out for a couple of weeks. So now you know that Randall Brunskill is more likely than not going to be your starter at right guard week 1, because Banks isn't even able to practice again until after the preseason's over with. So that's the position to be concerned about, is right guard.
And I guess the constant optimist that I am, the offensive line is the side of the ball that I think takes the longest time to develop, right? Because it's a lot about timing. It's a lot about, trusting the guys on the right and left side of you. And especially when they don't really know who the quarterback's going to be, right? Because blocking for a Jimmy Garoppolo is much different than blocking for a Trey Lance. And then also, these are guys that probably didn't practice together too much because it was a mismatch of second string and first string offensive linemen. So it looked the way that it was, I guess, supposed to look, right? For the offensive line to be the way that it is. So cause for concern, but I like that you're saying they'll still be fine. It's not like red flags, sound the alarm, this is going to sinking ship. You still feel like everything's going to be all right with this offensive line.
Well, look at how Moore. I think Moore played well against Kansas City in their starters in the game, right? Because he was in there with the Flyers offense, and he played okay. So did Brendel. I mean, they're okay, but I'm just not ready to jump off the ledge quite yet. Like some of what I'm hearing, I understand that they have some issues at the offensive line, but a lot of their big issues are once you get to the backups, and those rookies have to develop. You got to give them time, and you got to realize that they're not going to be starting week 1. And if there is anybody, it might be one of them. So,
and once again, we've always talked about having a all-pro center really changes the dynamic of the offensive line. Having an all-pro left tackle obviously changes the dynamic. So the two pieces that weren't there, and even Tomlinson wasn't there as well, correct?
Tomlinson was in the game. Yes, he was there.
He was in. So, but those two pieces, Mac and Trent Williams, are like the LeBron and Anthony Davis of our offensive line. So it's kind of like saying, oh, these Lakers look like trash, but the two best players, your all-pro players, weren't there. So clearly that's going to raise the level of the play when those two guys are in the game.
Yeah, and real quick before we jump off this whole line topic, I would say go. I've done a lot of retweeting tweeting out of some all 22 footage that I came across today of some of the Trey Lance's plays. Go back and look at the first play of the game that Lance is in there, and watch Mike McGlinchey put on a clinic for how you play tackle. He does a great job. I know we rip on this guy all the time, so since he did such a good job on this pass protection, I want to kind of throw him some praise on that one, because it's a stellar job over there at right tackle on that one. And I'm not being facetious at all. I'm being 100% genuine with this. He had great pass protection, rolled the guy out and just stood him up, and it was really nice. That's part of why when Lance started to run, he had the space that he did.
Beautiful. Eat your heart out, Grant Cohn. McGlinchey's coming to play this season.